Hi, welcome to Module 3. I've got the materials posted, and since I didn't have the Module 3 assignment sheet posted yesterday on Monday, instead of a Wednesday, Friday blog schedule for this week, we'll shift to a Thursday, Saturday, so you have more time. I want to point out some things that are different in this module than we've seen in the previous. We're still going to do our workshop and our blogs, but you'll see that we have some extra credit blog opportunities because we haven't had any of those yet, and I want to offer some extra credit, but also because there's so much that I want to do in the poetry unit that there's no way I can fit it into these few weeks. I mean, my master's degree is in writing poems, so I want to do the whole class. I want to do many classes just on poetry. Can't do that. So I want to offer some opportunities. And in general, while I have personally agonized for hours over 3 lines in a poem, generally writing a 20-line poem does not take us as long as writing a 15-page story. So I want to offer us more writing opportunity. So there's that. You'll also see that this week we have a poetry terms activity because there's a lot of jargon associated with poetry. Like, you know, we've talked about imagery and things like that, but what does meter mean, and what's a stanza, and what's scansion and a line break? So we need to do some real quick vocab learning here our first week so that things make sense the next couple weeks. So that assignment sheet is there, and you'll turn that into submit assignments by Friday. And also you'll see that November 15th there is a community essay due. And what this is you'll have the opportunity to find out what's available to us as writers. So what are some educational opportunities? You know, what are some community opportunities, places for us to gather together with other writers? And also what are some publication opportunities? So that's what that's about, and you'll turn that into submit assignments as well. So that's a little different in this module than we've seen in the previous. I'm also trying to figure out a way we could do like an open mic. I would love to teach this class in person so we could read each other our work, because you can learn so much when you hear the writer read, especially with poetry. I don't want to necessarily have to make you all like create a YouTube channel and make a video and upload it, especially because like a 10-minute YouTube video, at least on the school's Wi-Fi, takes an hour to upload. So I'm trying to figure that out, and I'll get back to you on that. I understand fully if poetry is not your jam. I get it. But I think a lot of our dislike for poetry comes out of really awful poetry classes in middle school and high school. And, you know, while studying the classics and studying Shakespeare and iambic pentameter and all that has its place, and we're going to look briefly at those things, not at Shakespeare, but at, you know, meter and rhythm and rhyme. Most modern poetry does not rhyme. It's not centered perfectly in the middle of the page like a Hallmark greeting card. It's not in da 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 iambic pentameter. And so poems, when we approach them like puzzles and we analyze them and break them apart, often it kills the poem. A poem is an experience, and it needs to be treated as such. And a poem, you know, it's this gateway where you can step through, and the poet holds my hand and describes, you know, the pine tree in the front yard, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about something else. So on poems, there's the surface of the poem, what's happening, but then there's the depth on what it means and what it connects to and the doors it opens for us. So I want us to approach poetry like that. Poetry does not have to be about the torment of our souls or about love or anything like that. Under this video, I'm going to post this poem by Al Zolianos. I love teaching this poem because it goes to show us what a poem can do, what it can be about. This is called the Zen of Housework. I look over my shoulder, down my arms, to where they disappear underwater, into hands, inside pink rubber gloves, moiling among dinner dishes. My hands lift a wine glass, holding it by the stem and under the bowl. It breaks the surface like a chalice rising from a medieval lake. Full of the gray wine of domesticity, the glass floats to the level of my eyes. Behind it, through the window, above the sink, the sun, among a ceremony of sparrows and bare branches, is setting in Western America. I can see thousands of droplets of steam, each a tiny spectrum, rising from my goblet of gray wine. They sway, changing directions constantly like a school of playful fish, or like the sheer curtain on the window to another world. Ah, the gray sacrament of the mundane. Okay. So, holy creptoli, this is a poem about washing dishes on the surface. But what is under that, right? This, we see in that first stanza, I look over my shoulder, down my arms, and they disappear into these gloves, which are down in the water. And then the hand lifts this dirty cup with dirty gray dishwater. But it's like, it's a chalice rising from a medieval lake. So we see this moment automatically something different. It's changing. It's magical. The glass floats level to my eyes, and behind it, out there in the sun, you know, the sun is setting over Western America. So we see this magical chalice, and out there the rest of the world is happening. But look what's happening in that last stanza. Thousands of droplets of steam, each a tiny spectrum, each tiny little drop of steam, which you can't see steam droplets. It's just like a vapor. It's a tiny spectrum. So what's a spectrum? It contains the entirety of something, right? So each droplet is a tiny spectrum. And those tiny spectrums become playful fish. It becomes a curtain to another world. So this idea, and if we look back to the title, the Zen of housework, you know, this meditative, I'm focusing on washing dishes, but it's becoming this other world through our imagination. So this isn't talking about the anguish of our dark soul, or it's not talking about death or love, which certainly we need those poems in the world as well. But we can write a beautiful, amazing poem about dirty dishwater. And I would say something like this is more powerful than if you're telling me about the torment of your soul is like a dark grave in the eclipse and there's the cold wind. Like, I know washing dishes. You have just changed my relationship with washing dishes. And that's the power of poetry. And we're going to look at how to break these apart. You can see that there are stanzas. That's very deliberate. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the imagery, the sound moiling among dinner dishes. Listen to that line, moiling among dinner dishes. It's all fantastic. And so we're going to look at all these things. If poetry is just agony for you, hopefully the way that we approach it here in your experience of writing it, unfettered. There's going to be very few rules that I put on the poems that you write. Hopefully that expands or deepens or frees up your concept of what poetry can be to read, but also what it can be to write. So that's about it. I will be posting probably video links of poets reading their work so that we can kind of get that rhythm and sound of poetry as well. But I really look forward to this unit, and let me know what kind of questions you have.